Chapter 3, Section 6, the Bureaucracy, the fourth branch. The bureaucracy is the administrative arm of the federal government. An extension of the executive branch, the bureaucracy consists of the cabinet departments, agencies, commissions, and government corporations that have been charged with the responsibility to manage the implementation and enforcement of federal law. As the head of the executive branch, the president is also the head of the bureaucracy. However, the bureaucratic system is so complex that most of the day-to-day operations are managed by employees of each organization. The federal bureaucracy has a strict hierarchical structure with a clear chain of command. Each organization contains multiple levels of management, with each level subordinate to the ones above it. The entire system is massive, containing hundreds of organizations and millions of workers. But its highly organized structure helps to keep it functioning reliably. Bureaucrats often specialize in a particular area of their organization's work, allowing them to complete their portion of a task as efficiently as possible. With so many working parts, however, the bureaucracy is often criticized for moving too slowly. While the highest-ranking officials in each bureaucratic organization are political appointees, the vast majority of bureaucratic employees are civil servants. Workers who have been hired for their education, experience, and other merit-based qualifications, rather than their political affiliations, a practice commonly referred to as patronage. The crucial switch from a patronage-based system, commonly referred to as the spoils system, to a merit-based system occurred following the passage of the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act of 1883, which established a competitive exam-based hiring process for government employees in order to combat the problems associated with political cronyism. Initially, the Pendleton Act applied only to a small percentage of government positions, but over time, the scope of its coverage has been expanded to include most of the bureaucracy. The switch to merit-based hiring has resulted in a bureaucracy that is largely staffed by specialists, workers who are experts in their field. These specialists also experience greater longevity in their careers than their patronage-based predecessors, as federal law protects civil servants from being fired or demoted for political reasons. Thus, bureaucratic employees are able to perform the duties of their jobs without the threat of personal retribution from an unfriendly presidential administration. In return, civil servants can be expected to do their work without regard to their own political beliefs or interests and do not adhere to the policy agenda of the president who appointed them. Rulemaking Authority. Bureaucratic organizations are tasked with the responsibility of creating federal regulations, which are specialized rules that govern the enforcement of federal law. The development of new regulations is governed by the rulemaking process, a procedure designed to promote fairness, transparency, and oversight in the creation of bureaucratic regulations. The following steps outline the rulemaking process. 1. Congress passes a new law that delegates rulemaking authority to one of the federal bureaucratic organizations. 2. The designated agency drafts a set of proposed rules and publishes them in the Federal Register, an official repository of proposed and final regulations. 3. A public comment period commences during which interested parties may make comments regarding the proposed rules. In the modern era, these comments can be submitted online through a government website. Once the comment period ends, the agency issues its final rules. However, they do not take effect immediately. Before the final rules are implemented, Congress is given the authority to review them and make changes. Any changes made by Congress have to go through the typical legislative process, passage by both houses of Congress and the president's signature, or a veto override. 6. If Congress takes no action, the final rules are published in the Code of Federal Regulations and have the same legal effect as federal law. Once a set of final regulations has been implemented, an agency may issue interpretive rules or policy statements to help the public understand the impact of the new rules. The agency may also publish its own internal guidance documents to assist its employees in the implementation and enforcement of the new rules. Interpretive rules, policy statements, and other guidance documents are binding only to the extent that they accurately reflect the regulation or law on which they are based. Because they have the same legal effect as laws, regulations are also subject to judicial review. Enforcement. Bureaucratic agencies have significant enforcement powers. When an agency deems that a party is not in compliance with federal regulations, the agency can take a variety of adverse actions against the party to induce compliance, such as withholding a benefit, revoking a license, or issuing a fine. For example, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, can fine a business that violates the EPA's clean air regulations. Bureaucratic organizations also participate in administrative adjudication, the process of resolving disputes that arise under federal regulations. Each agency or other organization has its own quasi-judicial department that specializes in administrative law. Disputes may initially be adjudicated by frontline workers or their supervisors, but if a party appeals, the case is assigned to an administrative law judge, ALJ, who uses the text of relevant laws and regulations as well as applicable precedent to reach a decision. The agency itself may have one or two more levels of review, but ultimately it will issue a final determination in the matter. The final agency determination is subject to review by the federal courts if one of the parties files an appeal.